Shall we? Hey everybody, it's Dick here. I've been asked to do another video about the Royal Enfield Classic 500. And why not? Royal Enfield's really doing its best to expand its brand around the world, and I think it's losing a little bit of its character when trying to do that. But it is putting money into some development and some accessories and new products and new bikes. So that can't be a bad outcome to chasing this kind of big bike company dream. I mean, I did have a problem leading up to the EICMA show. They had teased some images of a cruiser bobber style profile of a bike. And Royal Enfield is not one to not make production bikes. So when I saw these teaser images of this bike they were going to unveil, I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to unveil another bike before they deliver the Interceptors that they've taken deposits on and that are 6 months late to the market. And I thought, what a stupid thing to release a new bike when they haven't actually started delivering on these bikes that we've been waiting a year for. And I thought that that's where my disappointment would end. But actually my disappointment shifted, it changed from disappointment in them putting out a bike before the Interceptors come to the market. They actually developed a concept bike, Royal Enfield. Now, there is a rumor that the concept bike will become a production bike in, say, 2 or 3 years, and given their delays, let's say 3 to 4 years. But still, a concept bike. And one, I'm not a big fan of concept bikes because I'll never have a hand in one. I'll never have a chance to ride one. I won't own one. And it's very rare that concept vehicles become production. There are trickle-down effects from concept bikes to production bikes, but really when you see a concept, it's not really something you can attain or that you can expect to own. Maybe that'll be different with the Royal Enfields because really there's no point in Royal Enfield making concepts. But I'm disappointed. One, that they still haven't delivered on the Interceptors, but two, I'm disappointed that they wasted our time with a concept. Anyway, back to the Classic 500. The Classic 500 was built off of the back of the Bullet 350s and the Bullet 500s, and it's a bit more cruisery, it's a bit more stylized, it's not as utilitarian as the Bullets. But man, what a cool bike it is. One of my biggest criticisms in my earlier videos about the Classic 500 was that it's not a highway bike, that when it got out into the highway it felt like it was really straining and couldn't get up to speed. But I've had this bike about 2 years now, and it's broken in, and I'd say from about 1,000 miles to definitely about 1,500 miles on the clock, the engine is broken in nicely. I can get out on the highway. I used to say this lived at 50 miles an hour, and someone commented on one of the videos, 50 smiles an hour, and that's no joke. It is all smiles, but now it comfortably rides at 60 to 70 miles an hour. I can strain it now the way I felt like I was straining it to get to 65, 70. I can strain it now to get to 80. I'd say probably with a windshield on this thing, definitely with my full face helmet, this is actually quite comfortable on the highway rides I've been using it on. If you haven't seen other videos about the Classic 500, or you don't know much about the Classic 500, it's a 498cc single-cylinder engine, and it's essentially the same single-cylinder engine that Royal Enfield's been putting in their Bullets to a certain respect for the last at least 50 years. It's fuel-injected with a Bosch fuel injector, and it's a low-slung, low-seat height, wide-handlebarred, heavy, cruisery style motorcycle. It's not really a cruiser, so to speak. It's not like a Harley cruiser, but it's not like your upright Triumph Bonnevilles so it's a heritage bike, but it's kind of unique in itself. It's got these, it looks like it has these storage compartments on either side, but they're actually stuffed full of wires and the fuse box and and all the workings. So what I thought was an interesting kind of built-in storage container is just hides the shit. Slick, It just hides the same way the plastic side panels would hide stuff on like your 60s, 70s Japanese bikes. Maybe we could put a different air filter on this and open that up to be a storage box, but right now it's an air filter. And then the fuse box side, the fuse box isn't so big that you can't fit a small tool kit in there, but really it's a big space that I think is wasted. Look at this road. I say the Classic 500 can go out on the highway now because I've broken it in properly, but really this is the road you want to ride a Classic 500 on. And what an amazing road, and what an amazing bike for this road. Royal Enfield is trying to break into the American market and using this whole California cool sales pitch, but come on, the heritage is British, and if you get an Enfield on this road, you know where the heritage is, you know where the spirit is. It's a hedgerow bike. No, the spirit of this bike is British, the heritage of it is British, and I really don't understand why they're forgetting that, because the bike doesn't forget it. The bike knows. The bike knows where it belongs. I mean, just listen to that. Little pop, little rumble, glorious. I've said before that I'm considering these new Royal Enfield twins. And I went and I talked to my guy at the dealership, and he's like, you know, I think you really got to keep your Classic. And I think I just needed someone to say that out loud. Maybe if I could swing having both bikes, which is really not practical, but if I could swing having both bikes, I would love to keep this bike. And actually, if I couldn't swing having both bikes, I think I still might need to keep this bike, because the spirit of this bike is undeniable. The comfort level of this bike is undeniable. I've been on this bike all day long. All day. Got off to take a pee, got off to get some tea because it's freezing cold out. The other encouraging thing about keeping my Classic is I've done a lot of customization to it, and it's really personal to me. It's really specific to me. My favorite numbers on the side. I've put a little logo on one of the battery covers. I've pinstriped it. I put my, the light on the front fender. And if I try and sell that on, one, I'm selling on something that's really personal to me and people probably wouldn't appreciate it. But two, I don't want someone else riding with my number on the side of their bike. The other thing is if I get a new bike, I have to start all over. Plus, I'd only be able to sell it for what the book value is. I wouldn't be able to sell it for all the additions I've put on it. And that's usually where you take a loss in reselling a motorcycle. Very few people will pay for your customizations. But I love this bike so much that it'd be hard to let it go, especially for how little these things go for on the secondary market. But the other, completely forgot. The other encouraging thing about it, about keeping this, is that Royal Enfield has made a huge investment in accessories. They kind of tested the waters with their Pegasus Special Edition Classic 500. They developed some racks, they've developed some bags, and they were warmly received. Such a warm reception was there that they decided to invest in quite a few accessories. I think there's like 60 or 70 accessories coming out, maybe across the range. Maybe it's not just for the Classic, but for the Himalayan, there's a whole bunch of accessories and upgrades coming out. For the Classic 500, there's accessories coming out. There's talk of making a scrambler modification kit for Classic 500 with a high pipe. They'd have to reroute that airbox I was talking about. But if you're bored with your Classic 500, which I doubt you could be, but if you wanted to modify it a little bit, there's going to be options that it's going to be factory modifications that are bolt-on, which has a huge place in motorcycling. So yeah, I've been rethinking the Classic 500. I always get this 2-year itch. My 2-year itch is have a bike for 2 years, then sell it, and get another bike, have that for 2 years, then sell it. There's only a few bikes that I've had for a long time, and I think I'm glad I was given permission, or I'm glad I'm giving myself permission to keep this bike longer than is my habit. Grouse.
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.